Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. Today we are going to learn about the measures of central tendency. Now, let's look at some of the expected learning outcomes you're supposed to achieve at the end of this session. Now, by the end of this session, you're supposed to be able to state the measures of central tendency. And number two, you're supposed to define the measures of central tendency. And lastly, you're supposed to calculate the mean, the mode, and the median of a given data set. Yes, those are our learning outcomes of this session. Now, let's go back to our learning outcomes now, to our first learning outcome. When we talk about the measures of central tendency, those are just statistical measures that summarize data and provide insights into a central value around which the data tends to cluster. Now, these measures of central tendency include the mean, the median, and the mode. So we'll start the first one. Let's start with the mean. So for the mean is just the average value of a set of values in a sample, is the average value. As you can see here, we have the mean as the average value. Now, how do we calculate the mean of a given data set? Now, we want to see how we can calculate the mean of a data set. So the mean is given by the sum of values of all the values, the sum of all the values divided by the number of the values, or the number of sample, the number of the sample. The number of the sample. It can as well be written as the mean is equals to the summation of xi all over n, whereby the summation of xi is the sum of all the values and n is the sample size. Okay, yes. So let us look at an example of how to calculate the mean of a given data set. So we'll have a data set, and then from that data set we shall calculate the mean. So the values are as follows. We have these values. We have 2, we have 4, we have 6, we have 8, and we have 10. So we go ahead and calculate the mean, knowing that our mean is given by summation of our xi's all over n. So let's add our xi's. So xi's are just these values in the data set. So we have 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 8 plus 10 divided by the number of the sample. So the number of the sample is 5. Now when we sum those values, we are going to get 30 divided by 5, which is equals to 6 as our mean in this case. Okay, yes. Now For our mean is only useful for evenly distributed data which doesn't have extreme outliers. If a data set has outliers, it will be very hard for you to calculate the mean of that sample or the mean of that data set. Now let's move on to our next measure of central tendency, which is the median. Now move on to median. So for median is the middle value when the data set is ordered or arranged from the least to the greatest. It's also just the middle value of a data set. We can define it as the middle value of a data set. The middle value of a data set. Okay, so if the number of values in a data set is even, the median is the average of the two middle values. So maybe we can look at an example. We take an example of a data set. Taking an example of this data set, so we have these values. We have 1, 3, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that is our data set. Now if we rearrange the values from the least to the highest, you see that we shall just remain with the same, so we don't have to rearrange again. But now, looking at our data, we are trying to check for the middle value. We are trying to check for the middle value. In this case, we have these values going to cancel out: 1 with 9, 3 with 8, another 3 with 7, and the remaining value in our data set is 6, and that is what will become our median in this case. Yes, another example, we can look at these values. So we have these values: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that means if we follow the same pattern that we were doing in the first example, cancelling out, so we'll cancel out 1 with 8, 2 with 7, 3 with 6, and we are going to remain with 2 values in the middle because we cannot cancel them out all. So we are going to remain with 4 and 5. Now for these two, to find the median, we are going to add the 4 by 2. So when we add, we are getting 9 divided by 2. That becomes 4.5 as our median. Well, there's a point you must know, is that median only works well with skewed data or skewed distributions. So unlike the mean, median still works well with skewed data that has outliers. For mean, we said it doesn't work well with outliers, but for median, it has a problem. Now that is it for median. Moving on to the next measure of central tendency, we have the mode. And the mode, to define it, we say, is the value that appears more frequently in a data set. Now, a data set may have no mode, one mode that is unimodal, or two modes that's bimodal, or more than two modes that's multimodal. Well, so we'll look at an example whereby we see how we can calculate a mode of a given data set. So here is a data set. We have these numbers, these values. We have 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, and 7. Those are our data sets. So we want to check out and see the mode. The mode in that case. So what we are going to do, look for the numbers that are appearing more frequently. So as we can see from our data, we have two values that are appearing twice. So that is 4 and 5. So these two values here, the 4 and the 5, becomes the modes of these particular data sets. So we say that this data set is what? A bimodal. A bimodal data set. Why? Because we are having two values appearing more frequently than other values in the data sets. And in this case, our modes now become, there are two of them. Our modes are 4 and 5. Yes. So that is the modes of the data set that we have just looked at. Another example, maybe we can look at this. So we have this data set. We have 1. We have 1. Another example. 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 6, 8, 3, 9. So, when we look at this data set, it is very much evident to say that 3 is our mode. Why? Because we can see that 3 is appearing here, 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 and here. So we have more 3s than any other values in that data set. So our mode, this implies that our mode, so this implies that our mode in this case is 3. Well, there is a point to note. Mode is useful for categorical data or identifying the most common value. So that marks the end of the 3 measures of central tendencies. So maybe just a brief recap of what we have learned in our session. We said that there are 3 measures of central tendency, that is mean, median, and mode, and that mean represents the average value of a data set. It's suitable for symmetric distributions without outliers. And median represents the middle value that is mostly used for skewed distributions or data with outliers. And lastly, mode represents the most frequently occurring value that is useful for categorical data and identifying common values. So that is it for our session today. Thank you very much, and I will see you in our next session.